Morning, Mr. King.
Yeah, good morning, Eric.
Hmm. Yeah, today we discuss something related to the latest generation. The topic is, can Generation Z take criticism? Yeah, of course, now the later generation is not Generation Z,
Mm,
and but I think this topic, um, what I want to, what it means is we may discuss something related to generation because every time, every decade,
yeah.
and they'll have a new generations comes into the work. Graduate and kind of like become the adult,
Mm,
and then start to work,
yeah.
go into go into the labor market,
Yeah.
and the older generation, which is maybe the senior, the supervisor, will say, yeah, the this generation cannot take criticism, and or these generations they don't work as hard as our generations. So they kind of like the senior or the older generation kind of like think, yeah, we our generation become the ability of our generation become poorer and poorer. Mm.
Mm,
And also one one of the one of their critic is Generation Z or other latest generation. They cannot take criticism. They cannot like listen to people advice.
mm,
Yeah, of course, this is not only at work. Maybe you also can discuss something in family,
mm,
yeah, relationship, yeah. But I think this topic mainly designed for the workplace. Mm. So, what's
mm.
your opinion?
Yeah, for Generation Z, basically they were born from 1997 to 2012, right? So today they are like from 10 years old to 25 years old.
Mm.
Yep. So to me, yeah, I think I'm not in. Yeah, if you say Generation Z, I think we can say we are a Generation Z or we are not, right? We are just like in between Y and Z. And Generation Z right now, they are really young guys. They are students, and some of them have already graduated. And about criticism, I think, mm, yeah, actually, I just think that Generation Z, they are digital natives, and then the the life nowadays is different already, full of technologies and globalization. They are interconnected compared to like maybe 30 years ago or 20 years ago. And for criticism, I think not only Generation Z, I think all generation they also uh, kind of like don't really agree maybe the uh, the the way that the other generations do. Yeah, they don't agree each other, something like that.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
for example,
mm,
if you criticize, if the generation X or Y criticize generation Z, generation Z maybe they couldn't take that criticism, but if you flip this to the opposite, generation Z criticize generation X, yeah, I think they also couldn't accept it. Yeah.
mm, mm, but this is in the workplace, right? And
Mm,
normally we have kind of like the the tradition is you need to listen to your boss.
yeah.
You need to listen to your leader, your supervisor, and you shouldn't like mm, give a lot of pushback.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
to them and fight with them.
Yeah, and for this thing, which is like whether they listen to their boss or maybe Generation Z, you say young Generation Z, they are students, listen to the teacher also, right? And yeah, I think these things, this culture has started to change, which is in my time, yeah, compared to right now. Yeah, in my time, students listen more to the teacher. We are more obedient. Right now, yeah, they seems like really they don't take criticism so much compared to our generation. Yeah, what also?
And talk about the relationship between teacher and student, how it changed. And because you as teacher, do you face any problems, any issue regarding this?
For this one, yeah, I think one common thing is that they are really digital natives. They spend a lot of time on screen, and academic thing is not their only focus already. And also, few years ago, I think I have a thinking, which is like I found that the questions, because when we were in school, we have some reference book, and those books are some previous exam, previous tests, right? And then I found that the test in the past, long time ago, is much difficult than right now, than the
Really?
latest one. For a particular subject, for example, mathematics, at least in my high school, yeah, if I try to find out questions from maybe 1990, the 1995 or 1997, 1998, or maybe 2005, the questions compared to like 2015, 2018, the questions actually become easier. Yeah, the questions become easier. You can clearly see it. And if you ask the students nowadays to try the question in 1995, yeah, they will find it very difficult. Yeah, and at that time, I think this is kind of like not improvement, but the opposite, regression. But right now, I think maybe this is kind of like the focus is not only on your academic result. There are more things to care about. Not only like you can do a very difficult question, but their focus just on other things. This is not necessarily bad. They they learn a lot of things, not only the academic things. Yeah.
And I have a little pushback to you. Many parents say that nowadays they cannot answer the questions of their maybe primary child or maybe secondary child. They cannot answer those questions. So is it because the question become harder, or actually the parents are not familiar with those questions anymore? So because they also didn't practice, and if you ask them to do the question again, they can't figure out how to do it.
Yep. For this, there are two reasons, I think. The first is that, like you said, the parents, after so many years, they're not familiar with what they have learned in the past again. And the second is, yeah, for many, especially primary school, the mathematic questions, they become more and more, actually it's more difficult in primary school. And there is a lot of application type of questions. And then they also like, for example, maybe 20 years ago, the mathematic questions in primary 6, nowadays, it appears in maybe primary 3. They push the they push it earlier. Yeah, and then so that maybe they will feel like, oh, a question in primary 3 is very difficult, and I think mainly it's about like the type of question has got changed. Yeah, they are more like the application type of questions. For example, they ask you something related to life, not only like the calculation, but it's like the we call 应用题, yeah, in Chinese.
Like
Yep,
question, is it? So it's not multiple choice.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
not
to write
multiple
it.
choice, and also not the kind of only the numbers, that they have a lot of words, and then you have to figure out how to come up with your equation, not the question that already gives you the equation, just solve it. No. Yep. But if you say the questions maybe like in secondary school, and then we have the unified test in independent school, which is like when you are Form 3, you have to do the unified test, and then the questions will be from Form 1 to Form 3. And when you are Form 6, yeah, in independent
I
schools,
think,
we have Form 6. Yeah.
I think, yeah, one thing I think they may have some confusions because primary school, you mainly compare to the public school education, right?
Yeah.
And when secondary school, you suddenly change to private school. So how can you do this kind of comparison? There could be different things.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, because I don't really compare much. I know little about the secondary school, which is the public one. Yeah, the exam.
Yeah, and I think for private school, it makes sense for them to make the question easier because there's no point to make the question so difficult. They have a lot of pressure, and if you make the question too difficult and people don't want to study, and you lose a student, you lose the funds. And also they have many other reasons because, for example, no point to study so hard.
Yeah.
And because when you go out, yeah, no use. So they kind of like adjust the difficulty and focus on something more important.
Yeah. So do you think here is the reason of this is mainly because the student right now, they didn't get good marks, and then this give a pressure to the examiners to give simpler questions, or this or you think is another reason, which is the examiners, they found that the academic excellence is not the only things, and it's not that important, and then so that they make the questions simpler.
On the surface is the later reason, and the deep level, I think, is a former reason.
Deep level.
Yeah, because they cannot tell you. They cannot tell you it's because they are very struggling. They are very difficult. They worry about they cannot get more students. They cannot tell you this, but they can tell you, yeah, academic is not the main focus. Actually, we need to improve the overall ability of students. They will tell you this, but they won't tell you, we try to make the question more easier. So you will come to us and you will pay us money to study here.
So how about for you? Because you study in public school, right? In secondary school, do you think the question become easier?
I have no information because I didn't look back what they talk. I didn't look back what they teach in this year compared to what the teacher teaches was the syllabus when I was in secondary school or primary school.
Oh, yeah. I mean, during your secondary school, have you done any past year questions?
Oh yeah.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah, not much difference.
Oh.
But I think we only would do like in the recent 10 years past year question. We will do more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think one of the reason maybe it's not because the question become easier, the question become harder. Is it because of change of syllabus? A little change of syllabus, they were adding new thing. Yeah. And maybe the syllabus in the past got a lot of thing, and then now they take out something. Because you can only see something you can see, you cannot see the unseen. For example, mathematics, how many new syllabus add in? And how many old syllabus take out? It's 10 years ago, it's 20 years ago, we need to study maybe like the geometry. Yeah, just any kind of example, because I really forget what is the syllabus in mathematics. Just one example. Let's say 20 years ago, you don't have a syllabus called geometric, but now you have. So you add in something. But does it mean that students learn more things? Maybe yes, or maybe no, because you only got 1 year to learn everything.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to take out something. Something less important. But it can relate to the main syllabus. So when you look back to the question in 20 years ago, and you see, oh, this is so difficult, because you didn't learn that syllabus. The student didn't learn that part of that part of missing syllabus.
Yeah. Yeah, the syllabus isn't the same, right?
Yeah. And I think the main thing is the same, just like mathematics, plus minus multiply divide. Yeah, it's same, but inside they will have some syllabus, which is make it difference. And come back to our topic. Do you think this contribute any? Do you think of these things we discussed? Maybe the academic become more difficult. Maybe they pursue the overall abilities. Do you think this contribute to the social problem, which is the later generations may less willingly to take this to accept others' criticisms? Okay, I think no. I think the first question is, this is a premise. Do you think our generations become less and less willingness, become less and less willing to accept others' criticisms?
You mean our generation? So do you mean generation Y?
Not only our generation. Yeah, you can say our generation. You can say previous generation. You also can say the latest generation. So what I mean is, do you think the generation is kind of like become less and less each generation? each latest generation become
Mm.
less and less willing to take criticism?
Yes, I do. I do think
Why?
they take less criticism. For the early generation, for example, generation X, Y, I I don't know. In my opinion, is at that time the internet isn't that common, and then what the information, how they get the information from books or from maybe their uh, parents or their senior. They need a lot of these kind of experiences from the previous generation passing down, and then this is one of the major or common way they get information, yeah, during generation X and Y. And after that, after I think it's starting from generation Y and Z, starting from generation Y, we we have the chance to use the internet. We can know more things. Not only like you can ask somebody about something, you can do it by your own. You can search the internet. You can find the answer by your own. You also receive a lot of information on the website. Yep, and so that it seems like you don't have to listen to uh, your maybe senior, your parents uh, completely. You have other source to get the information, and also the information that you get is much more than the previous generation can get. Yeah, and then this make them to have their own like own belief, something like that. So I think this is one of the reasons that uh, the latest or the later, the more recent generation take they couldn't take criticism compared to the previous.
Yeah, and another question is, do you think our generation, each generation, become less thoughtful?
Thoughtful. Uh, Thoughtful. How do you define thoughtful here? Do you mean that they uh, they have more thinking and then they think
That
more? They carry about the worry about the future more, something like that.
I mean, less thoughtful. It could be less critical thinking,
Oh,
and yeah,
critical thinking.
mm,
Critical thinking. I think no, the opposite. I think the recent generation they have better critical thinking skill compared to the previous generation. Of course, you need to compare from the same age. For example, the current generation, let's say you take a guy 20 years old, you want to compare to generation Y, you need to take the generation Y at the 20 years old, which is like
yeah.
at that age. Yep, I think right now they have more critical thinking.
Mm. And another question is, do you think uh each generation, they kind of like don't want less willing to follow the path that their parents, their teachers set for them, and they're more willing to pursue the way they found
Yeah,
they find.
yeah. Yes, I do agree.
Mm.
Yeah.
Then why
Okay.
is it same? Yeah. Is it same as the reason you mentioned just now, which is the internet, more information?
Yes, but I want to add in some more, which
Mm.
is uh, like in the school, the teachers, yeah, teachers are most of them are like 10 years, at least 10 years older than the student, and yeah, because teachers maybe they tell them to work hard. You need to get a good result so that in the future, when you graduate, you can get a good job, you can have a good life. But they started to don't believe these kind of things. Uh, it's not that easy. It's not
Who
that
teacher student?
student
Okay.
students started to have some awareness because also related to internet, the social network. they know many things, and then they try to have a different type of thinking. Yep, and then they receive much more information. Yeah, so it's like they don't believe that work hard uh, is the only way to get succeed. They also need to work smart. So they don't just follow what other people tell them to work hard.
Are you telling me the student in secondary school now they can understand working hard is not the main reason for you to get success? Are you telling me this? But they don't have any experience of working, and where the information that I mean, what is the source of information they get from? Is it from TikTok
TikTok.
or some other YouTube? Do they really read a lot of things, like read article?
Read articles? No, I think.
Yeah. And do they read a lot of book?
Books? Yeah, even less.
Yeah, even less. I would say even less. And nowadays, the latest generations don't like to read book. Yeah. So where the information come from? YouTube, TikTok, short video.
Yeah, maybe YouTube a little. TikTok mainly entertainment to me. I don't know. Yeah, maybe some people use it for learning new thing, but I think this is not the main channel.
Facebook, maybe the social media, Instagram, all of those. Yeah, how many people really do a deep research?
Yeah.
So I think one thing is correct. I think they are able to access more information, but maybe is those information could lead you. It could be the disinformation. They want to capture your eyeballs. They want to capture attentions.
Yeah.
So even though it could lead to the same conclusion, but it doesn't mean that the process is correct, right?
Yeah.
And the process is important because you need to know why. You really need to know what is the thing. If they give you the wrong quote unquote know why, and then they give you a false conclusions which link to the know why, and maybe you will work less harder, but you just work less harder. You didn't try to work smarter. You didn't try to learn some new skill, some new tools to avoid working hard, but working smart. At the same time, maintain your financial budgets, increase your survival rate, think about your futures. And I think nowadays the kids, maybe not the kids, the later generation entering the workplace, they think that they have a higher time preference. And
preference? What do you mean? They value the time more? They don't want to work long hours?
No, higher time preference means they couldn't think longer. They couldn't think in the far futures.
Oh, I see.
Time preference. They have a higher time preference. And if you have a lower time preference, you value your future times quite similar to your current times. You have the low time preference. Have you remember the discount rate, which or hurdle rate we learn in finance?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. So what's the value of $1 in futures? Is it less than the value of $1 today, or less than the or more than the $1 values in today's?
Less than.
And how about your time? You change the money, you change the capital 2 times. Yeah. Is 1 hour or maybe 10 or maybe 5 years in futures more important or more value than 5 years in today's value? Yeah, maybe still less, because our current is the most important. We cannot know whether we will die within 5 years. Yeah. But a healthy mindset is you can think longer terms, because a lot of things you need to put in effort, and then you need to wait. The times will pass, and you have it. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, just like investment. But what if you have a higher time frame? What if you have a higher time preference? You want to gambling. You want to gamble. You go into the stock market. You cannot think longer terms. And you think in 1 year. You think within 1 year. Okay, within 1 year, what stock will perform better? And it's a bad move. But if you ask another question, in 10 years, which stock will perform the best? It's more easier to answer. And a lot of wisdoms are built on the times. You have to have the lower time frames in order to understand the wisdom. Because what is wisdom? Wisdom is not just the hard skill. It's not just a knowledge. You learn and then you can apply. You can get an instant feedback. Only after 10 years, only after 20 years, you start to realize that, oh, yeah, this is a way of doing things.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe it's a culture, maybe it's the economies, maybe it's also the environment, the political mega political environments force us to have a higher time preference. Not only because the youngest generations inherently have a higher time preference, because nowadays every generation the time preference increase. They couldn't think too much longer, and maybe for the younger generation, they're born in this decade, in this decade.
You mean 2010 until now?
Maybe, yeah. They are highly affected by this thing. So they're pursuing more instant feedback and less about something you need to plant. You need to plant the seed and wait it grow to a tree. Like in a farmer, in a agriculture era, it is so easy to cultivate a lower time preference culture, and also a lower time preference mindset, because they really need to think longer terms. Yeah, everything they plants need to wait maybe 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, and they need to plan for whole years. They need to plan for next year, because you got 4 seasons. You cannot plant in the winter, but you need to prepare the seeds in winter.
Yeah.
And you need to prepare enough food in winter. Yeah. But if you look at the current modern age, I want to buy something. You click the phones and you pay the money, and then Lazada, Shopee ship the product to your home.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to buy, and now the child is not asking their parents to buy something when they are at shopping mall. They can do the same thing at home.
Yeah. Anytime they see.
It's mind blowing, you know.
Yes.
Initially, in our age, our parents, if our parents want to prevent this thing to happen, they just don't bring the child go to the shopping mall or go to the toys palace, a toys mall, some place selling the toys, selling the candies. Yeah, but now, they don't have this option because their child can look at the phones and the advertisements just go into their brains, just come out in front of their face every day, every second.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the society and also this internet. At the same time, it gives them more information. But I would have a pushback whether this information, what is the intention of this information? What is it true? Yeah. Whether the informations, like a full article, have a lot of nuances, but whether the students will really read the article.
Yep.
And or they just access some short video, some social media, what people write. Yeah. And what people want them to know. They learn something that people want them to learn. Yeah, there's some problem here.
Yeah, and some of
and another side, which is internet, because internet company want to survive, they rely on advertising model.
Yep.
They give you the free service, but they get your data, get your privacy, and in exchange, they try to put the advertisements to you, even though you don't buy anything. But the advertisements trigger your brain, trigger your dopamine, and affect your life, affect your thinking. Yeah.
Yep. So for here is like the marketers want to catch the audience attention, right? So maybe they or some of them also like write something and then they give a very maybe interesting title. They just want the audience to click in. This is just their purpose. Maybe they're not focusing on what is whether their information is like providing a really good value or maybe educational. They don't care about that. They just care about their view, whether this let them click in, maybe entertain them, whatever. They just want the view.
Yeah, and not necessarily entertain them, but it can make them feel angry. It can just trigger their emotions. It could trigger their sadness, but it can increase their view. Trigger their angry. It can also increase their view. Not necessarily need to give them happiness. Need to give them the pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just now, what is your what you want to say?
Yeah, it's also this point, which is like, some of them is the marketers. The intention is like that.
Yeah, but it's not their fault, right? Because if you are on the position, if you are on the seat, you will do the same thing.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So And I think because our genes or our body and mind, just like I'm not sure whether you heard this before and whether I tell you before, it's kind of like our brain is few 100,000 years ago or few million years ago.
Yeah.
But the information and the environment we need to deal with, our brain need to deal with is so advanced, it's so
Modern.
it's kind of like, yeah, it's so modern. And so we have an ancient brain deal with the modern life.
Yep.
So it is, yeah. And so for young kids, because they don't really have a good ability to know what's right, what's wrong, what they should do, because it needs time to cultivate.
Yeah.
And before they have the time to cultivate that critical thinking and abilities, and they just get kind of like get bullied by the marketer, by all the information, and kind of like already damage their brains. So I think this is a problem. And for us, maybe for us, I think for generation Y or millennials, in our early age, we're still able to access internet, but we don't have so much entertainment. We have more information, and we read the information, and then we learn. We cultivate critical thinking, and we are able to judge whether this is something we should learn, whether this information, what is the intention, and yeah, and our brain still didn't like get damaged by those internet companies. Our brain didn't fill up so much advertisements.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure, but you also can say because our brain is kind of like plastic. Our brain is plasticity, so we can change. Right, you can change. I agree, but you need more times. And I agree, our generation becomes more aware. What is the real problem? What is the root cause problem around the world, around maybe our work, around relationship, everything. Yeah, so that it's also one of my thesis that we will have social revolutions in futures, and the cultural will change. The culture will change, and we will less focus on the tradition and focus more about maybe the science, or focus more about the humans.
Yeah.
Focus more about you, individual. So being yourself become so popular and kind of like become true. It makes sense. It makes so much sense. Become a philosophy for our current modern age and in futures. In the past, you want to be yourself, you may face a lot of difficulty, and and you better follow the rules other people set for you. But now it's a different story. So yeah, this is my thoughts on this.
Yep. Which is be yourself. I think be yourself can be said to be enforced by the confirmation bias. Some of them is in a good way. I mean, they can confirm their ideas from the social media, from the internet, and some of them, yeah, maybe not for the be yourself this value, maybe other values. Let's say they behave like this, and then they when they surf the internet, and internet maybe get their data somehow, they will give them the information that they wish to see, and they kind of like can get somebody agrees to whatever values or opinion they have, or any personality. Yep.
Marketers is very, very smart. They do experiments. Yeah, because
Yep.
they throw in the real money, you know. They have to get the returns. Unlike the researchers.
Yep.
For example, if you compare the nutrition researchers, nutrition science researchers, and the marketers in the food and beverage company, which person you can believe more? I would say you can believe more the marketers, because the marketer needs to survive. They'll spend money and they'll do experiments, try to find out how to do the thing, how to promote something, how to change the taste, add in what ingredients, do what advertisement, what kind of smell, what kind of shape of a food can trigger your dopamine and let you come and buy my product. I would more believe the marketer abilities to doing this kind of job.
Yeah.
So I will try to avoid those foods.
Yep.
Yeah. And okay, yeah, and go back to a topic. Can Generation Z take criticisms? To me, I think we less and less willing to take criticisms. Even though for me, I also don't like to take criticism. And maybe compared to an older generation, maybe one of the reasons is I think I'm right. And I think what they are telling us is not suitable for futures, it's not able to apply to the chaos realities. And yeah, maybe I have my own information bias, just like other younger generations. They may have their own confirmation bias and information bias. But this is just a trend. This trend is inevitable. And the people who think wrongly will just fail. And the people who think correctly will succeed in futures. Who think and act correctly will succeed in futures. According to pragmatic theory, the result will be the same. Because loser will always missing on the show. You can only see the successful people who lead the world. And what's the behavior of these successful people? How they get the success? Do they follow their hearts? Do they follow what they think they should do to success, or do they follow the law set by other people, set by government? So even though we couldn't share whether Generation Z can take criticism or not, and also we're not sure about the factors. We are not sure what caused it. But this is a trend, and I think it's because we listen to ourselves more. and loser will lose in any kind of the way of doing things are the same. Even though you follow the rules, some people just follow the rules badly and they feel their way. And the persons who follow the rules more correctly, they success and they lead the world. And now this kind of change from the collectivism to individualisms. People focus more about themselves, and so I think this is a trend, and this is inevitable. So there are tons of implications from this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in conclusion, I think yes, it is correct. And even though for me, I can feel that. I don't like to take I don't like to take the criticism, even though I will think I will kind of like improve myself, but I just don't like to take the criticism compared to an older generation.
Yep.
And also, like, I have my own thinking. For example, in the past, nobody will ask the question why we should work, but now more and more people ask this question: why we need to work, including me. And when you don't have faith on something, especially this issue, this is come from the workplace. And when people lose the faith, lose the belief why they should work, so every negative think the experience would just make them take their work more, and also will make them take less criticism, even though the criticism is a real one, is really a good criticism. Because they just lose a faith. They don't know why they need to work. They want to lie down. So they can say, yeah, right, it's a good criticism. You need to work hard. But why we need to work hard? Oh, you need to work hard in order to get marriage, in order to buy car, in order to provide for your child. Why I need to manage? Why I need to buy car? Why want to give a child? And this is can be supported by hard data. And in most of the country, the birth rate decreased a lot. And also people don't want to marriage. And also there's a trend which is people cultivate the quote-unquote minimalisms. Yeah, they try to escape from the materialism and keep buying and focus on their heart, which is also a form of individualism. So yeah, I think if you look at the deeper level, to me, I think if you look at the deeper level, why they less willing to take criticism is because really they don't know why they need to work so long, so hard. Yeah, so this, I think, this is all my thought for today's topic.
Yeah. It also, your last point is it also related to the time preference, the shorter, time preference. Is it shorter or higher? I forgot. Which is like they didn't focus much in the longer term.
But how to ensure you work hard? It means that your future will be better. You work that hard. You buy so many things. You get married. You buy car.
Mm.
You give birth child. All these things, does it guarantee you to give you the happiness?
Yeah, it is not a guarantee.
Yeah, but why you want to work that way? Why you want to do that way?
Yeah, so this is like you say, a belief, a faith, right?
This is a very, very deep level of thinking. They start to criticize. They start to think why things should work like this. So remember in the financial budgets topic I mentioned about, in personal finance, everything is just a function of cost, right?
Yeah.
If you don't need to get married, if you don't need to buy car, if you don't need to give a child, how much money you can spend lesser? I mean, how much expenses you can avoid, and also in turns, how much time do you really need to work in order to support your living? And what is the value of time versus the value of money? Yeah. How do you quantify your happiness? By following the way, get married and give a child, follow the way that society expect you to do. What's the happiness? And what is another way is you follow your heart, do something you want to do. Maybe you can work less. You have a peace in your mind. You don't need to fight with other people. You don't have a 35 years housing loan installment need to pay. You don't need to keep worrying what if you lose your job. All of these things.
Yeah, and this is not a bad thing, right? This is something like to be aware of these kind of things, is it?
Yeah. So just like what I say, you will have loser, you will have the winner. And loser is those who get trapped by the internet product, by the product provided by the internet company. But they will have some winner. They will have some people that aware this, and then they try to avoid all of these product internet providers. For example, you don't use TikTok. I also don't use TikTok. But many people, a few hundred million, I'm not sure, maybe more than 100 million people are using TikTok. And when they start to click in the apps, they cannot stop. But there are some people, they don't need the product, and they have the awareness. They pursue what they want. And over time, the loser lose their influence. They cannot change anything, but the winner can change something, because they accumulate some ability, they accumulate some capital. This capital is not just a monetary capital. Yeah, they can use their voice, they can use their money, they can use their action to vote something. And more and more people doing this. This is just kind of like the social revolutions, and more people will join in these trends. More people will join in this, and some people who fall in the trap before, and then they can realize that. Yeah, they can start realizing, this I don't need to do this. I can choose another way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, the key point is more and more people realize that they don't need to spend so much money, and then they start to wonder why they need to work so long hours, even though in our modern society the efficiency, the productivity improves so much. And also they start to worrying in the future whether AI will replace their job, and why they need to work so hard, why they need to relearn the skill so hard in order to fight with these inevitable trends. And they start to find another way to live. They cut their spending.
Yep.
Some of them become minimalist. Some of them build their own house. Some of them move from the urban area to a rural area, and they can have a peace in their mind even though they don't have a big house. They can have a tiny house. And also many of the people, maybe they are forced to do that, or maybe they intentionally do that. They're buying tiny house, have a very little space. They don't pursue more material product, and the spending will just keep reducing. And then how can a company survive? And in future, technology will just replace many of the company, will revolutionize all the industry. Some companies just fail, and people will lose their job. When they lose their job, they start realizing something. They change. Yeah, reinforce the trend. Reinforce the trend. Let everyone start to think how to live well.
Yeah.
And
maybe
so,
this will push to some trends like UBI, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, UBI is inevitable. So the topic today is a signal. Yeah, Generation Z cannot take criticism is a signal to all these things.
Yeah, and it is a cycle, right? After maybe 20 years, the generation Alpha, they also like couldn't take criticism.
Maybe, but I will say we have a lot of problems accumulate to the current age, and to the current decade. Yeah, and Generation Z treat their child so good. They overprotect their child. Yeah, and yeah, this could be the reasons. This could be the main reason. Maybe in another decade, Generation Alpha cannot take criticism because they don't have much ability. Or maybe this group of people, they can take criticism because they pursue the protection. They pursue the protection, and then they are willing to listen to elder people because they value the protection, they value the quote-unquote security very much. Yeah. So every generation have every generation problem. Yeah. So anything want to add in?
Yeah, I think one of the key factor in general is because of technology, right?
Yeah.
How we get information, how the world connected, and also like AI problems in the future. Yeah, so also that's all what I want to say today.
Okay, so talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.